Oh gosh, power pull down. Let me tell you something, folks. There is a pescar, it's a fish in there. And that's the cast right there, it's gonna get him. There he is. Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. Bring it up in here. Yes, sir. Well, how's it going, folks, and welcome back to TRF. Today, we're gonna teach y'all how to catch fish like this by skipping under docks. You know, the topic of how to skip a lure is one that I've gotten a question of so many times. And we're on a good lake to do it today. And I wanna teach you guys the ins and the outs, everything you need to know about how to skip a lure from a jig to a Texas rig, anywhere from a dock to a laydown. That way, you guys can catch fish like this. Let's teach y'all how to skip. So we have all seen on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, the people that can skip really, really well. You know what I'm talking about, clips like this. You may look at those clips and think to yourself, first off, that's impressive. Second off, how in the heck do they do that, and how can I do that myself? Because it looks incredibly fun to skip a lure under there, see the explosion, feel the bite, set the hook, and get those fish out. And I know for a long time as a bass fisherman, I could not figure out how those guys did that without making my reel turn from this into the opposite of this, into a backlash. And so the purpose of today's video is showing you guys exactly how to skip. We're gonna have the camera here in the boat. We're gonna show y'all plenty of fish catches. We're also gonna put the camera in the water on the bank and show you guys a really cool angle of here in my boat, how I skip underneath docks, so y'all can get a different angle of what my body looks like, because body positioning, hand positioning, and movement is incredibly crucial to catching more fish when you're skipping and, of course, having more success. So let's jump into the content. So as we all know, fish live all over the place. They live deep, they live shallow, they live in grass, they live around rocks. But one place they love to live, especially when it's hot outside, the sun is high, bass have no eyelids, so they want to get underneath something because they can't just shut their eyes like we can. They have to get underneath something to find shade, and especially in the summertime, it gets hot, the sun is out almost all summer long, and so they want to get under two main places. Under overhanging trees, under, I guess, three places. Under matted vegetation, as I've talked about in a few of my previous videos, but the one that we're focusing on today is going to be underneath boat docks, specifically talking about skipping boat docks. Now, this topic of skipping a lure is one of the most searched for out there, and I definitely want to give you guys the best possible content. This video may be a little bit long, but I promise you it's going to be filled with so much information that can help you guys become better bass anglers. So why skip? Like I said, bass live under there. Now, why skip well? The reasoning for that is because most people can't. The reason why, as you're gonna see in this video, I caught so many bass today, so many good ones, had the time of my life, is because I have learned to get my lure farther underneath the dock, farther underneath the overhanging tree, farther underneath XYZ, whatever you wanna name it, the fish are underneath. I have learned to get my lure farther than anybody else. And so following these tips, you guys will be able to do that as well. The main thing to talk about is what gear in terms of rod and reels and what type of lures you can skip. So an example of a lure you can not skip is a crankbait, or let's say this lure right here. This is a top water popper. Yeah, you can't skip this thing. Or at least if you can, call me, because you're way better at fishing than I am. Because this lure here is not designed to skip. It's got two treble hooks that are kind of flying all over the place. In order to skip, you need a lure that is more compact and has more of a flat-ish design to be able to go underneath a dock. So a spinnerbait, can you skip it? No. A crankbait, can you skip it? No. A lizard, can you skip it? No, don't skip a lizard. There are several different lures that I would recommend skipping, that being a Texas rigged soft plastic and a jig. And really, when it comes to Texas rigged soft plastics, I'm only skipping two. I'm only skipping a soft plastic Cinco, Texas or Wacky rigged, and a soft plastic fluke like the Strike King caffeine shad. That's the only thing on the Texas rig side that I'm gonna skip, because one, they skip super easy, and two, that's just the lures that I have confidence in. But the one that I'm talking about today, and the one that I skip the majority of the time, I'm talking about the vast majority, 80–85% of the time, underneath overhanging things such as a dock or an overhanging tree, is going to be a jig. This here is the Outcast tackle. Jig. You guys know I'm sponsored by Outcast Tackle, incredible company out of here in Minnesota, makes some awesome products. I have a discount code for y'all to use down below for Outcast. I'll leave it linked down there. But this here is the Cage Fighter jig, designed by Seth Fighter. And this thing is designed specifically for heavy cover scenarios like skipping docks, under overhanging trees, and flipping in and around wood and grass. And so I love this lure. It gets underneath the docks so well, as you'll see in this video. And of course, we're gonna hop up on the front deck here in a second and show you guys the exact body movements and everything you need to be a proficient skipper out on the water. Last thing before we have on the front deck, the combo in the settings of your bait casting rod and reel. And I guess you can skip with a spinning rod, but I'm gonna be talking about bait casting today because I feel like you're a lot more accurate with a bait caster when you skip. The settings of your reel and the rod and reel combo and line are so incredibly important. Starting off with your rod. I don't really use any shorter than a 610 if I'm really trying to be a target skipper. So the shorter rod you have, the easier it'll be to target a specific area. But once you become good at skipping, you can skip with any length rod. So I usually throw a 7.2 to a 7.4 heavy. And the reason for that is because I have a 5/8, 5.5 ounce or 5/8 ounce jig that I'm skipping. And so I want a little bit heavier, beefier of a stick, especially getting them out from these dock pilings, the cables that are under there, any kind of grass you encounter underneath the dock. You need an absolute broomstick with a nice soft tip like this rod is here. This is the Lew's TP1 Black Speed Stick 7.4 Heavy. On it, I have the Lew's Super Duty, the best reel Lew's makes when it comes to flipping, pitching, skipping around shallow docks and cover. And then the line size, so important. If you try to skip docks with your spinning rod and your 10-pound mono that your grandma spooled on there 15 years ago, you're gonna break off fish. I'm just telling you, that's how it is. Gear is so important when it comes to skipping, so go invest in a good shallow cover, 7.3, 7.4 heavy, maybe learn on a shorter rod so you can be a little bit more accurate, a 7-foot medium heavy, but I love throwing the 7.4, and the most important thing is line. You need at least 17 to 20 pound fluorocarbon. I have 20 pound Seaguar Abrazex on here right now. The reasoning for Abrazex is because it is a little bit higher in terms of abrasion resistance than Seaguar Invisex is, my favorite line they make, and you're gonna see why in this video. I don't break off a single fish, and if I was throwing 12-pound line to maybe be a little more finessey and try to get more bites, I would have lost a lot more fish than I did because I set the hook and I'm basically just holding it tight to get those fish out of that dock, and they're grinding their face against the line. They're getting the line against the cables and the dock pilings, and heavy line is so important. But with talking of the gear out of the way, let's hop up on the front deck and show you guys exactly what I do to have the most successful dock skipping day possible. I'm gonna kind of set you guys a scene. We have a dock right here. We've got a float for a pontoon boat, whatever kind of boat they have here, and then you have a small little personal area to sit on chairs. And the bass, most of the time, are gonna be sitting about as far back underneath this main area as possible. And the reasoning for that, as I talked about, is shade. Same thing with overhanging trees, same thing with any other thing that provides shade. That's where the bass are, especially during these hot summer days. And so I'm gonna take my jig, I have an Outcast Tackle Cage Fighter jig, and I'm going to get it to my proper skipping height from the rod tip. So as you guys can see, I like to keep my bait about 1 foot to 1.5 feet below my rod tip. It may be different for you. This is all kind of a personal feel thing, but this is about the distance I like to have on the rod tip. Quantity of casts is very important when it comes to skipping. And so if I were you guys and you have a pool or backyard, I would literally make casts, reel in to that exact distance from the rod tip to your lure, make another cast. That way you are getting the hang of exactly when to stop your reel right there, boom. It is a complete muscle memory game. There is not a whole lot of skipping that ain't muscle memory. And so this is the first thing that I would say to do is every time you're at home and you want to practice dock skipping, but of course you don't have a dock to skip or an underlying tree to skip, practice the muscle memory of the roll cast, reeling in. Exactly where you need to be, 1.5 foot roll cast. And after a while, it'll become second nature and you'll be ready to make the most accurate cast in one day as possible. And I guarantee you'll catch more fish than the guy next to you. So let's look at this dock here and talk quickly about what I do with my body to get the lure under the dock without backlashing. So I'm gonna position my boat, about as close as I can get to the dock without scaring the fish. If your fish are really finicky, you may have to learn to skip from farther away, but here, about 15, 20 feet is good enough to be far away. I'm gonna make a roll cast, as I talked about, which a roll cast, this is an overhand cast, this is a sidearm cast. A roll cast is where you roll the lure over, just like this. You're taking, instead of you're casting like this, you are making a complete right turn clockwise roll with the lure. You see a lot of guys do roll cast, bill dance with one hand. I do it with two hands like this for more stability. And so you do a roll cast, and on your roll forward, I bring my left, what's this called? My left elbow up, my right elbow into my hip, and I shoot the lure and then letting go as soon as I get to the bottom. And if you guys play Frisbee, you'll know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, I would actually recommend you pick up an ultimate Frisbee disc, one of the ones from Academy or whatever, any Frisbee you got around the house, and learn to throw a Frisbee like this. Because the reason why I'm good at skipping docks is not because I've done it for a long time, it's because I played Frisbee for a long time. So this is one of the weirdest tips I've ever given on the channel, but I got better at skipping a lure because I'm better at Frisbee. So literally, the act of throwing a Frisbee like this is the exact same as putting a rod and reel in my hand and skipping. It's the exact same motion. And so that's the weirdest tip I'm gonna give to you guys ever on this channel. Pick up a Frisbee if you wanna be better at skipping docks. But like I said, you wanna roll cast like this and shoot it under. And as long as you have your brakes set right, as I'm talking about, I have my brakes very, very high. Right there, my magnetic brakes right there on the outside of the reel are set very high. And my spool tension though, I like to have a little bit loose because I'm more confident. But if you're not confident, like I said, make sure you tighten that spool tension up. I'm gonna do a little roll cast like this, shoot it in, and one thing I do at the very end of my cast to make sure it gets under there is I will raise my rod tip up. And for some reason I found that really helps the lure to skip in there. You're gonna have backlashes, all part of the game, but as long as you do a skip like that, you're gonna get the lure in there where it needs to be every single time. Well, I shouldn't say every single time. Sometimes. So we have found ourselves a dock here and we have the camera. Levi, the cameraman, is on the shore, and I want to show you all the exact same thing I just showed you, but from a different angle. So you're seeing usually where the bank fishing people are casting to the dock. Now we're in a boat casting underneath the dock, skipping as we're talking about today. And so I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just talked about. I'm going to pretend that I just made another skip. I'm going to reel in. It's all about speed in this game, efficiency. Get it up to about a foot and a half. I'm going to do a roll cast just like that, just rolling over, letting it go literally as I get, I'll click my reel over so I don't have to keep my thumb on it. As I get there, you have to kind of point and imagine with your rod tip what area on the dock or underhanging tree you want to go. And after a while, it'll kind of become muscle memory. You'll be able to skip exactly where your eyes are going because your rod tip will follow your eyes. So let's say I'm trying to skip on this dock right here. So we're going to zoom out and show you all the dock. This dock here isn't exactly prime for bass fishing. It's kind of a small dock, but it worked the best for this angle. And so I'm gonna skip it in between the piling here and the piling there where the wheels are. So I'm gonna have about a foot and a half of line, do a roll cast, and just like that, we skipped it perfectly underneath the dock. I love getting it a few feet past where I think the fish are. That way I can work my jig underneath the dock exactly where I think those fish are gonna be. So let's show you all that again. Reel in, let me get this grass off my jig. Want to make sure that you have the jig or the soft plastic, whatever, as flat as possible. So I take the skirt and I kind of move the skirt away from the bottom where it skips. Once again, about a foot and a half of line, roll cast, just like that, every single time. If you get the cast right, the motion, and of course, keeping your thumb on the spool is very, very important. Rarely ever am I skipping and I completely have it on free spool. That's very dumb because you're gonna make many mistakes when you're skipping, especially learning. And so you wanna make sure you have your thumb on the spool as much as you can throughout the thing, kind of throughout the cast, kind of feeling, is my jig going too fast? Did I hit the water too soon? You wanna be able to stop it when you can. So just like that. Let's see if we can get a really, really good one for y'all, a nice buttery smooth one. Now, of course, waves are gonna make it a little bit harder. Fishing in waves is not fun because just like skipping a rock, you want to have the smoothest water possible. Any sort of wave that you hit could deflect your lure in whatever direction the wave is going. Hopefully we can get a good smooth cast. Just like that. Every time. No backlash. And that just comes with years and years of practice. You're not going to get it right away. This is a humbling activity, dock skipping. You're going to go through many spools of line. I would highly recommend buying cheap monofilament and being okay with making mistakes and having to re-spool. But once you get the hang of it, 20-pound floor is the way to go. Sometimes you're going to get a skip where it hits and bounce a little higher, like that one. Sometimes you're going to get, sometimes you're going to hit the dock, and that's not ideal. But sometimes you're going to get one that's just perfectly buttery smooth, just like that. I like to land the jig about, a foot to 3 feet behind my target. And of course, the trajectory of the roll cast is important because if you land it like this, it's going to hit the water and not skip. You want to hit it, you want to have the trajectory of the lure go underneath, just like you're skipping a rock, and every time it's going to skip right underneath the target. Now you're going to find docks that are harder. This dock here has about a 2-foot clearance, so it's pretty dang easy to skip this dock. But some docks are going to be a lot harder than this one is. You just got to take your time, roll cast, bring your rod tip up, and almost every time you'll get one without a backlash. But even pros, like Andy Montgomery, the dock skipping king, sometimes get backlashes. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Learn something there. And I say we catch some fish. So how about y'all? Get ready, here it comes. 3, 2, 1. Oh gosh! Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right on the edge of that pontoon. Bring it in. Don't let him get the energy out. Yes. Another nice one. Oh, chill, chill, chill. Dock skipping is so much fun, especially when they're eating the jig. That feels good. There's nothing like that bite. You reel up and you just feel like boom. That's incredible. All right, well, this has been fun. Doggo was happy to be a doggo. Got him, that's a big one. Ugh. 2 on that one dock. Yeah. And that's the advantage of the 20-pound fluorocarbon, is he had me around 2 different cables, and I was able to pull him around both of them. Now, probably gonna have to retie, but at least I got the fish in the boat. That's awesome. Yep, I feel my line frayed right there, but because of the 20-pound abrasion resistance, I was able to get it in. This is so much fun. I love it. I love it. Hello. Hello, darling. How you doing in there? You're doing good. Wanna come back and eat it again? She did. She did. Oh, yes. Little guy, though. It's still fun. Still a blast on the jig. Goodness gracious. Holy smokers. That was fun. That was fun. Oh, dang it. Oh, I skipped it too far over this post. I mean, that's where the fish are. If you're not getting stuck, you're not catching fish, but I skipped it over that, was swimming it, and he ate it. Oh man, that's fun. That is some F-U-N. Oh gosh. Got him, holy cow. Holy smokes. That's a big one, that's a big one, that's a big one, that's a big one, that's a big one. Oh my gosh, hello, hello, hello. Oh, yes, sir. Yes to the sir. Bacon, bacon, bacon. Yes! That's so amazing. I skipped underneath the dock, I was swimming it out, and I saw what looked to be a weeds, and I was like, oh, I've skipped around weeds all day. But then the weeds moved, and then the weeds opened its mouth, and that came out. Oh my gosh. That is what I'm talking about. Oh, so exciting, so exciting. This is something that I don't think a lot of people do, and it's hard. That's the reason why. And so they think, I'm not gonna skip, I can catch fish elsewhere. If you get on a good dock skip and bite, a good brush skip and bite, and you're doing what nobody else is doing, you can catch fish like that. Oh my goodness, that's fun. That's fun. It is so awesome. Gosh, it was so cool to see that fish behind my lure, swimming behind it, and I stopped it and it went, oh, got him. If that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what does. Good grief. I cannot tell y'all how easy it is to skip when there's no wind. As you can tell from this montage here down south where the wind was blowing, this wind is brutal. Dang it. Gosh. That doesn't happen when you don't have waves. Man, dude, waves just make it hard. Good grief, man. It is very difficult, as I talked about, to skip in the wind. So now that we have no wind, I'm literally gonna skip this dock and look at you. How you feel about that one, huh? There he is. There he is. Oh, this is just a blast. This is just an absolute blast. every single hook. Top, roof of the mouth with that jig. It's unbelievable. Good grief. That there, folks, is called clearing your spool. Something very important to do when you've made about 17,000 casts and you got a little bit of backlash going. So clear your spool, and now you are ready to make the next skip. There's gotta be a bass. Right. Well, there, oh my gosh. Holy cow. He literally came out and grabbed it. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, what are you doing? I've got some good mojo on my side today. Ugh, it don't even matter if I make a good skip catching one. And this is a public lake, folks. For all you wondering, oh man, that was a bad skip, you still caught one. These fish are just, they're on it today. Ain't no private water around here. I love it. Not a giant, but it's so much fun. Sometimes, folks, you're gonna find that you make a bunch of skips to a dock and there's one you really wanna get, and you gotta get there. So take as many as it takes. I wanna get right to... That wasn't it, but I know that if there's a fish on this dock, he's gonna be right in there. Look at that. I knew it, I knew it. What'd I tell you? What did I tell you? He wasn't big though, but it proves my exact point. Oh, well, almost got him in the boat. That if you know, that looks like the most fishy spot right there. Make as many casts, as many skips as it takes to get in there. I backlashed like 4 times trying to get in there. Finally did, got a fish. Easy peasy, chicken bacon smoked cheesy, right there. Something's wrong with it. There we go. There's one. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's a nice one. That's a nice one. Bring it up in here. Come on, come on, come on. Yes, sir. Let's go. On the jig, under the dock. Made the perfect skip, hopped it 3 times. The next hop, it moved a little bit. Oh, and that is how good the Outcast Cage Fighter jig gets them. Absolutely gorgeous fish. Thank you all so much for watching Tyler's Real Fishing. Hopefully you learned a little bit about how to skip a jig today. Hopefully you learned the techniques, the line, the gear you need, and of course, like I said, it takes time. I didn't get good at this, and I wouldn't even consider myself still amazing. I'm just good enough, proficient enough to get the job done. Once you get good enough, you can have some amazing days out on the water. So we'll see y'all next time. Put my trolling motor on high. It's always best to skip the docks that don't have people on them. Howdy, howdy.
Hey guys, what's your secret?
What's my secret?
Yeah.
Just make a little bit better cast than the last guy.
Oh, I mean, that works all the time when you're fishing.
Oh, my secret how I'm fishing.
Yeah.
I just got really lucky. It's a good time.
Hey guys, have a great one.
Appreciate it, man.
Catch anything?
A lot. Quite a few. Yep, they're all under the docks, but I wanted to skip your dock because you're...
Hey, go for it. That's my problem.
I like, yeah, that's your problem.
Yeah.
My secret is I let them all go. Your secret is you eat them all. What a skip. What a perfect skip under there. Well, that was a good backhand skip. Good grief. Can I please get a fish on that cast? Gosh, it's like after every good skip, I just botch one. Oh, great. A fish bit off my claws. Gosh, dang it. That was my fault. That was not the waves. Can't blame the waves for that one. I just suck.